Lori 2.
There's a backslash.
Okay. Everybody's in. Aiden, Jerry, do you have Aiden and Ben helping you today?
Nope.
No. Okay. So maybe somebody who got in easily can help Jerry go around and help anyone who's having a difficult time getting in.
You're in? You're in. You're in. Okay, you're in.
Okay, terrific, guys. Okay, so then everyone's going to come on to slide 2, and I want you all to click in a moment. Wait 1 second before you do it. You're going to click onto this lino board just by clicking on lino board, and I'm going to ask you, if you look up at the screen for a minute before you do that, just so I can guide you around the lino so everybody sees what we're doing. I'm going to ask you which of these ways of remembering the Shoah you think is the best way to remember the Shoah. You're going to, there's a little clip here from Schindler's List. You can watch movies. There's the survivor's testimony. There's a bunch of different things to navigate. There's Israel. There's International Holocaust Memorial Day. There's visiting actual ghettos or concentration camps. And I want you guys to just take a moment and think about which way, just pick one, not two, which of these ways do you think it would be best to remember the Shoah? Which way will best help people remember the Shoah? And remember, to post on a lino, guys, you click on the sticky and you can write your name, write why you think this is the best way, and then click post. Okay.
A lot of them, they're not getting onto the site. It's not working for about half of them.
Okay, that's a little strange. Is your Wi-Fi is working okay, Jerry?
I mean, half of them got on. So I'm assuming.
Okay. Okay, so you know what? Let's do it a little bit differently. Let's use our chair there in the middle. You guys, I'm going to show you around to what the different things are. We're not going to watch. If you have the lino, you can watch the actual survivor testimony. So one way to remember the Shoah is by listening to survivors and their stories, either in person or on tapes or in books. Another way is to watch movies or books about the Shoah, which aren't necessarily factual, but to hear stories through movies and books. Another way is to observe Holocaust Memorial Day, to go visit different Holocaust memorials. Like in Manhattan, you have a museum that you can go and visit, or in Washington, D.C., the National Holocaust Memorial. And another way is to actually go, which all students in Israel, in Israeli schools, in high school, go to visit Poland, where they actually go and visit ghettos and concentration camps. And many American students do that as well. So if somebody wants to raise their hand, Jerry, if you want to call on someone, maybe someone wants to pick one way that they feel is the best way to remember the Shoah, and just come to the desk and tell us.
Anybody want to come? I'm going to raise your hand at once. Yeah. Half the class, I'm so, this is, okay, so, stop.
Okay, reading books and watching movies. Somebody said reading books and watching movies. Okay, whoever posted that stickum who was able to get in, do you want to tell us why? For you, it's your opinion. There's no right answer here. Why you feel that's the best way?
Who was that?
Oh, that was me.
Come on, move up here, right there. Boom, there.
Name again, remember, tell me your name. And
Jordan.
okay.
I thought that was the best way because, like, you could actually hear like an account from someone's personal perspective and like how they felt, like what it was like.
Okay, so Jordan, you're talking about nonfiction. You're talking about actual survivors' testimonies in books or movies. Okay, great. Great. And someone else posted the same thing. Is there anybody else who feels differently, who has a different idea about what they think is the best way to remember the Holocaust? Somebody's raising their hand in the back. If you want to come forward, or you can speak from where you are.
Visit the camp because you actually get to
Okay. Jerry, it was a little bit hard for me to hear. Yeah, unfortunately.
Lori, give me 1 second. I'm just maneuvering the kids around so that we have, so that everybody's working at least instead of 2 on a computer, 3, but everybody has one that works.
Okay, we're going to get to something where everybody's going to have to work in groups in just a little bit, Jerry, so maybe you want to hold off because I've put the kids into groups.
Okay.
So not to have to do double work. Okay.
Okay. So go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, guys.
Visit to campus so you actually get to see what happened and understand it better.
Okay. All right. So a lot of people feel it's very important to actually go to the places where the story unfolded and actually visit the ghettos and actually visit the camps. So I think a lot of people feel it's vital to listen to the survivors, listening to survivors tell their stories. Okay. So most of you guys want to hear from the source, either from the survivors telling their stories, either through a book, a movie, or in person, or you want to go to the actual place where these events unfolded. Okay. Okay. I'd like us to start thinking about how the events, now we're going to begin to take our first initial steps into what it is that we want to remember and into what exactly happened. So before we do that, I'd like to get a sense of, before your families, it might have been your parents, it might have been your grandparents, it might have been your great-grandparents. Before your families were in America, where did they come from? Those of you who can click onto this Padlet on slide 3, please do that. And then you're going to tell me. So you double click, yes, but Earth doesn't, I'd like to know the specific countries, if you know, and if you can write your name. Okay, Poland and Ukraine, we're going to be digging into some of those places. Any non-Ashkenazi Jews in the mix here?
Like Russian, Polish.
Russia, okay.
I need a
Austrian.
Austrian.
Wait, someone's writing on mine. Someone's writing on mine. I said that my
Russian, Polish, Austria, Romania.
Germany.
Germany, okay. We're actually going to explore this story. Did your family, Jackson, come from Germany before or after the war?
Before.
Before, okay. Lithuania. Okay, a lot of good Ashkenazim in our mix. Poland, Germany. We have anybody who came from anywhere other than Poland, Russia, Germany, Austria? Any Sephardi Jews in the class? Yeah, from where? Italy. Okay, interesting. Was your family from Libya before Italy? Or Italy?
I think by the time my family was here, the war hadn't begun yet.
The war hadn't begun yet. Okay, so they came before the war. Okay. Did anybody's family come after the war? Anybody's grandparents come after the war?
Jordan.
Jordan, which grandparents, where were they from?
Poland.
From Poland. Okay, Polish grandparents. Okay. So I expect you're going to have some stories to share with us or to tell us as well.
We have someone else whose grandparents came after the war.
Oh, from Iraq. Russia. Gal, who came from Iraq?
My grandma, my mom's side, and
Your-
I think my dad, not my grandma.
I think it's only my grandma.
Okay, very interesting. Okay. All right, guys. So we see that most of us come from countries that we're going to see, countries that the Nazis actually entered and countries that were definitely affected by the Holocaust and the Shoah. And now I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to share with you my family's, actually my husband's family's, but my family's Holocaust story. So my husband's grandmother was born in a small town called Konjaga, which is in Poland. It still exists. Before World War II, there were about 2,000 people who lived in this little town of Konjaga. Half of them were Jewish. So about 1,000 Jews, 1,000 non-Jews lived in the town of Konjaga. And my husband's grandmother was born into a family of 7 children. And they were, like most of the Jews there, they were merchants. Many of the Jews were peddlers, merchants, tailors. And they lived pretty comfortably before the war in Konjaga. These are my husband's great-grandparents, his great-grandfather Shalom Yaakov and Drazel. And again, they lived in Konjaga and they had 7 children there. When the war, before the war broke out as we're going to see in September of 1939, but things were not looking so great. Even in the earlier 1930s, there was a lot of anti-Semitism, things that were happening in Germany influenced what was happening in Poland. And my husband's great-grandfather saw the writing on the wall, that it wasn't going to be such a good idea to stay in Poland. But he had married children, he had grandchildren, he had a business. So this is a picture of my husband's grandmother, Miriam, Mania, as they called her in Poland, when she was in school in Konjaga. So Shalom Yaakov Bernbach had this idea. He took 2 of his sons, he brought them to America, and he set them up in business there. And then he went back to Poland. And he took 2 of his daughters, my husband's grandmother, Miriam, being one of them, and he sent them. At that time, there were a lot of young people who were moving to Palestine, trying to build up Palestine to be a Jewish country again. And there were a lot of young men there who were single, and they wanted wives. And they were looking to the old country, to Poland, to marry girls from Poland. So Shalom Yaakov sent 2 of his daughters, Miriam being one of them, and her sister Lucia, to Israel to get married. So my husband's grandmother left Poland in 1934, and she married her husband in Israel. The rest of my husband's family who stayed in Konjaga, his great-grandparents, Shalom Yaakov and Drazel, their 3 remaining children and their grandchildren of their family, no one survived the war in Poland. Only my husband's grandmother and her sister, who had been sent to Israel, and her 2 brothers, who were sent to America, survived the war. But after the war, we heard this story from this gentleman sitting here. His name is Benny Schanzer. And he told my husband's father, and later my husband and I heard the story from him as well. He was a young man during the war. He was 14 years old. And in Konjaga, the Germans didn't round the Jews up and put them in ghettos or send them off to camps, or many of the stories that we're going to hear later on. In Konjaga, they rounded all of the Jews up. As I told you, there were about 1,000 Jews there on a Shabbat, and they took them out, and the Jews were shot in the town, in the cemetery. And when they were on their way to go, they were taking them in a cart. This young man was next to Drazel, my husband's great-grandmother, and she looked at him, and she said, "You're too young, you're very young." And she gave him a little push, and she said, "Go." And he jumped off the cart, he rolled off the cart, and he wound up getting away, and he spent the war in hiding. And when he left Poland after the war and came to America, he said that it was Drazel Bernbach, my husband's great-grandmother, who saved his life. So my husband's great-grandparents were able to get 4 of their own children out of Poland, and also to help save the life of this young man, Benny Schanzer. And in my house, when I married my husband, my father-in-law gave me this candelabra. Can anyone guess what this is used for? It could be a decoration. But yes?
Candle.
Candles? What kind of candles?
A non-menorah.
A non-menorah. Good guess. Not 8 candles. Non-menorah. What? Anyone have a guess as to what kind of candles? Shabbat candles. So in many homes, it's the custom or the tradition to light one candle for each member of the family. So I have my husband and myself, and we have 6 children. So I light 8 candles every Shabbat. But when I first got married, my father-in-law gave me this candelabra as my Shabbat candlesticks. And he told me that when his mother was leaving Poland, her parents gave her this candelabra. And this was all she had from her parents in Poland. She brought it with her to Israel. He brought it with him to America when he came to America. And now it's the candelabra, the Shabbat candlesticks that came from that town of Konjuga in Poland that we light every week in my home. And just to give you an idea, this was a picture taken a year ago at my daughter's wedding. This is my husband and his brother. And all of these children here are just some of the great-great-grandchildren of Drezel and Shalom Yaakov Bernbach that are lucky to be in this world because they had the ability and the wisdom to send some of their children out of Poland. Okay, so now, and I know some of you guys really have something to tell me because some of you said, Gal said, and someone else said that your grandparents came to America after the war. So I'd like you guys to think about, who do you know who survived the Shoah? It can be someone you know because you read a book. It can be someone you know because they're in your family and they've told you their story. It can be someone you know because they're in your community and you've heard them tell their story in synagogue or in school. It can be someone you know because you saw a movie about their life. So I'm going to ask everyone to please click into this Padlet and share with me who you know who survived the Shoah. And don't just tell me, Jordan, that's amazing, your grandmother. Can you tell us a little, can you just tell us a little something? She came from Hungary, or tell us a little something about your grandmother or your friend's grandpa. If it's a friend's grandpa, tell us a little something about the person.
Can you give us an example, like something we should say about them?
You can say anything you want to share about them. You can say, my grandmother, she was in the Warsaw Ghetto and she came to America after the war. My grandmother is an Auschwitz survivor. My grandmother was in Hungary, in Budapest, and she came to America after the war. My grandmother was in Poland in hiding. I don't know her story. So anything that you'd like to share with us. Wow, amazing.
My dad, my grandpa.
Type it in.
I don't have.
He's going to give you a chance to do it also.
Jackson, you've never read a book or heard somebody speak about their experiences? Okay, so you're going to get a lot of new information. Hid during the war after escaping Poland. Your grandmothers were really, really lucky.
What if you know 2 people?
You can post about 2 people.
I don't know how many of the kids know this, but they have a number of teachers whose parents are Holocaust survivors. Like myself, they have another teacher who they have on whatever, Tuesday or Wednesday, Leah Whitney. Another one.
You have Susan Work. You have Susan Work in your school, who her father, Joseph Work, is also a Holocaust survivor.
Actually, their teacher they have on Wednesday, she was actually born in Germany after the war.
Wow, in a DP camp? Wow, that's incredible. Maybe you can get her to share her story one day, Jerry.
She does every year around Yom HaShoah.
Oh, okay. Amazing. Amazing. Okay. You know what? I have to say, which I'm very, you guys are very young to still have grandparents who were Holocaust survivors. And normally when I teach this class to 6th and 7th grade, there aren't so many people who personally were so touched by the Holocaust. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Okay. Now we're going to take a step back. We're starting at the very, very beginning. And I want us to get a little taste and flavor of what life was like in Europe before the Holocaust. So I'm going to ask you guys to take a look at this movie that I'm putting up on the screen. And I want you to pay attention to what you see, to what people are doing, to how people look, and see if there's anything that you can learn or tell about what life was like for Jews before the Shoah in Europe.
I think you might get to see it on your iPad. Okay, guys, based on looking at that little video, at those clips, what kind of things can you tell about what life was like for the Jews before the Holocaust in Europe?
You might need to repeat the question.
Okay, what kind of things, based on that movie, those were actual video clips or film clips of Jews living in different places, living in Hungary, living in Poland, living in the Netherlands, in Holland, before the Shoah. What kind of things can you tell about Jewish life in Europe before the Shoah based on that little clip that you saw? Think about how people looked, what they were doing, who they were with.
Good.
Go ahead.
It looked like they were having a really good time.
Okay. What made you say that? Where? One example of someone having a really good time.
They looked like together, and they weren't like fighting.
Okay. Oh, you said so many things. Looked like they were together. They were communities. They were having fun. Kids were playing. Lots of different examples of kids playing. People at the beach. Okay. What else can we tell?
Okay, good. Sit down so she can see you.
They're like running. They're happy. And they're having a lot of stuff with their family. Not doing killing people.
Okay. They were happy. They were with families, just like you guys. People were part of normal, loving families. People had friends. People were having fun. What other kinds of things did we see in that video? Think about how people looked.
I saw they were all dancing together.
They were what?
Putting together.
Okay, so we saw definite clips in there of religious Jews, of people who the way they were dressed, they clearly looked religious. Not everybody. A lot of people were in regular clothes, but they looked religious. Sometimes they were davening, or they were singing and dancing in like a youth group singing Hatikva. What else?
Good.
They looked like they were like warm. They looked like they had a lot of fur coats on. Like they looked like they had like a money to afford that kind of like clothes.
Okay, that was a very important thing also. Many of the people in the video, we know many Jews in Europe were very poor, but many of the people in the video looked quite comfortable by the way they were dressed. Either they looked like they were in very warm clothes, they had fur, they were on vacation or on holiday, or they were in school and well dressed. Okay, anything else?
Anybody else want to share? Okay, that's it.
Okay, they all look the same.
Did they all look the same?
No. Kind of.
Kind of. Okay, somebody who thinks they did not look the same. What looked different? In what ways did people look different?
They look different by
Good.
They kind of look different. They look different by their personalities.
Okay, maybe their personalities. We didn't get to see that much of them. Maybe also they look different by, some of you commented on some were in fur, some were more warmly dressed. They look different by the way they were dressed. So just like you guys know, not all Jews in America, not all Jews in Israel look the same or believe the same things or practice their Judaism in the same way. Also, in pre-Holocaust or pre-Shoah Europe, the Jewish communities across Europe, and even within the same places, looked very different. They had different ideas and different beliefs. And now we're going to take a little bit of a look at what some of those ideas and what some of those beliefs were of Jewish communities in Europe before the war. So I'm going to ask you guys, you're going to click here on slide number 14, where it says pre-war Jewish life. And here's where I'm going to need your help, because I divided people up, and I might have left a couple of people out. I'm sure I spelled some names wrong as well, but I've divided people up. And what you guys are going to do is you're going to look at 5 different communities of Jews. You're going to look at Hasidim. You're going to look at secular Jews. You're going to look at Reform Jews. You're going to look at Zionists. And you're going to look at Mitnagdim. So if you guys, once you come into this slideshow, you will see, first of all, before we even look and see who's doing what, let's look at the directions. So if everyone looks up at the screen or on your own screen, you guys are going to have a slide. I'm going to show you the example of the Hasidut slide. You have something to read about this group, and then you're going to put your slideshow into present mode. You have a video to watch as well. So you're going to watch this little video clip. This is when I said if you have earphones, it will be helpful because everybody's going to be watching something different. Okay?
Okay, so a lot of the kids, so there's a bunch of kids who are here today that weren't here last time.
And kids,
last time who weren't here today.
okay, Jerry, what I'm going to have you do is basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can tap
Make a group.
the head. Make,
Okay. So there's 4 groups, you said?
5. But before you make the groups, I
Yes.
just want to make sure everyone understands what to do.
Okay.
Each group is going to be assigned to a side. Everyone knows what a meme is? Over here on my right side is the sample meme. Okay, each group is going to be assigned to a slide. On your group, you're going to read a blurb about them, and you're going to watch a short video about them. Then you're going to look up an image in Google Images about your type of group. If it's Hasidim, you would look up a Google image of Hasidim, and you're going to go to the memes.com website and create a meme. But at the bottom of the slideshow, each of you, I'm just going to watch. One group is doing Hasidut. One group is doing the secularists. One group is doing Zionists. One group is doing the Reform Judaism. And one group is doing Misnagdim. At the end of the slideshow, I gave you a sample. And you guys are going to click into here where it says Our Memes. It's memes.com. But after you've made your meme, you're going to put your link to the meme on the spreadsheet. And the sample, the link to the sample is also on the spreadsheet. So you can see it there as well. Okay? So Jerry is going to divide you guys up into groups of 5. If you have your earbuds when you're watching your videos, that's a great thing. If not, you can spread out in the room so that you kind of give each other space and aren't on top of each other, listening to each other's videos. Okay?
Okay. Sorry. So guys, you 1, 2, 3, you have Hasidut. Okay? Here you go and join with them. You 4, right, are going to be doing secularism. Okay?
I didn't get it.
You right there. You're doing secularism. You 4. Hush. You guys are doing, what was the third group?
Third group is secularist. Third group is Zionist.
But I have Hasidut, secularists, Mitnagdim, and Zionists. What's the 5th one?
Reform.
You guys are going to do reform. Okay. You guys are going to be doing.
Because it was the reform movement that was in Europe at that time. That
okay. And you guys, 2, 3, 4, 5 are doing Zionists. Okay. Everybody know which group they have? Everybody know which group they have? Zion. You don't have to be with them. You can do something you want. Okay. So get started on your group.
Wait, where's the earbuds?
You're gonna go from here. You're gonna click on it. Come on, guys, let's get started. You guys know my God, it doesn't work. What are you doing that? Yeah, but you're not doing the same screen. You doing supposed to do it? You go to the video?
I love me some memes. No, we need to make a meme. No, that's actually so funny.
Guys, I don't think anybody should be up to making memes yet. First, you should be watching the video about your group, learning something about them, reading something about them, and then going on to make the meme.
I'm trying, but you're touching my phone.
No, that's
Alright.
I'm not even able to. I can't go a day without touching. Did you joke around? I'm trying to do something.
Guys, after you make your memes, I am going to ask each group to
We need to make a
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
after they make their memes, I'm going to ask each group when they present their meme to explain a little something to everybody about their group. Okay? They should,
Guys. It seems like there's more fooling around now than what we're supposed to be doing. Let's stop. I can't even hear Lori when she's talking to me. We have to, okay, so I'm sorry, Lori, can you explain that again?
yes. So after they make their memes, everybody, we're going to present all the memes, and then everybody, one person from each group is going to explain who their group was. Who were these people? What was their idea about Judaism?
Okay, so after you each are going to make, we're each going to make a name, right? And then you're going to present about your group, telling what the group that you were assigned to. One person from each group will assign about what your group is about. You're going to explain what the Zionists are, what the Reform was, what the Mitnagdim were. No.
Yeah, that's good right here.
Wait, are we sure? Because in the instructions it says find a picture of a famous person from your group.
The person has to be a famous person?
It could be a famous person. It could just be somebody who's representative, who looks like someone from your group.
There you go.
Person. It could be if you wanted to be, but that's up to you.
Yeah. Oh my God, we're arguing. No one.
No, what are those?
That'd be hilarious. Oh yeah, you would probably do.
Okay, you have your name and you.
Now memes.com is not loading. Maybe an image. Oh, this is the one I use. Upload. Yeah. What are those? How do we add our link on the slide?
You don't have to add your meme to the slide. You're going to put the link.
How do you add the link on the slide?
Not going to add it on the slide. You're going. Jerry. Hello. They're going to put the link for their meme.
What?
They're not going to put the link for the meme on their slide. They're going to put it on the spreadsheet. Okay?
Okay, don't put the link from your name on the slide. Put it on the spreadsheet.
This is the last slide in the slideshow. When you
The
click,
last slide is the spreadsheet.
when you click on our memes, you'll go right to the spreadsheet.
What are
There you go. You're right there.
no, that's what
Chad, to get to that, guys, you gotta lower the volume. It says that they have to log into Google to get into that spreadsheet.
1 second.
Oh my God, you touched my pancake. I look like.
Gary, they can try it now. It should be fun.
Try it again. Thank you. That spreadsheet is the last slide.
What's that website called? Where do we go to make this year?
Emmy, it should be a link there.
On the slideshow?
In terms of what, the name?
No, for the meme.
Huh?
For the meme.
It's gonna be, take it serious.
It's not letting me edit on the spreadsheet.
If you look at the sample, guys, you'll see it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. So you can be serious or you can be more humorous as long as you're prepared to explain your humor, meaning it should make sense. If you look at the
Okay, now that they got into the slide, it's not letting them edit it. They're not able to type into it. Someone have to get the app.
into what? Very what? Into the slide, into what you have right now on the screen. Okay.
It's not letting him type into it.
It's enabled editing. Tell them to refresh or go back in there. Jerry?
Now try.
Jerry?
They can't. Yeah, tell her your problems. I got to go help them.
Okay, so basically, like when I go on, it says that you need to have the Sheets app in order to edit it.
Oh, you might not have Sheets on your iPad. Okay, you might not have Google Sheets on your iPad. That's a different story. Okay, so what you can do is you can type into. You see the computer that you're standing in front of?
Yeah.
If you go into the chat, see where the chat is, or ask Jerry to show you where the chat is.
Chat, I see it.
Okay, so type in the chat www.memes.com / and then IMG / and the number, and I'll put it up for you, okay?
Okay.
If you send it to me in the chat, I'll get it.
Okay, I'm typing it in.
Fantastic. And what's your name?
Jordan?
Jordan, if you can then show anyone else who needs to do that, who doesn't have Google Sheets on their, they have a pad and not a computer, okay?
Okay.
I have one question.
And then you just have to hit send, enter.
Okay. So this works on my end. Okay, send.
Great, fantastic, I got it, and I'm going to.
11:30.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Great, awesome job, really nice job. Super. Oh, wait, you guys are not Hasidut. Are you Hasidim or Mitnagdim?
What?
Jordan, were you Hasidim or Mitnagdim?
The Hasidim.
Okay, great. Okay, so then, Jordan, if you can be in charge of showing anyone else who's done and ready with their memes to do that.
Okay, I'll tell them to type it in on here.
Okay, fantastic.
I have 9 questions for you. What are those?
Okay, guys, We should be taking another 4 minutes to finish this up.
One question. Watermelon. Wait, how'd you guys get to that meat?
You make your mix.
Yeah, I did that.
Roll it to the screen.
You tell them what to do.
Did you ask her?
Gary?
Yes.
Jordan knows what to do. I walked him through sending me his meme. He's going to help anybody else who doesn't have Google Sheets on there. If you haven't had, you probably don't have Google.
We have other kids who are having problems just getting into the MEMS.
Makes sense. If you guys have, it either works or doesn't. Meaning, if you guys have Wi-Fi, it's an issue. Okay, this is the one and only time we make a meme. But
A lot of them having problems just making the memes.
if they're having a problem making the memes, let them use Jordan's iPad. Okay, has no problem, and he can show them what to do on his.
Okay. Guys, listen up. Guys, hello. Listen. First of all, I want to compliment you. I realize. Well, at least you can stop talking while I'm complimenting you, right? I realize the technology is not working well today, and this is making this so much harder and probably even frustrating for many of you, and I apologize, okay? I apologize. That being said, if you're having a problem making the meetings, go over to Jordan, right? And his iPad is working for it, and if you need help with that, he will help you do that.
Okay, Gary,
Yes.
has anybody else finished their meme, or only the Husky dude?
Anybody else finish their memes? No. They're all having tremendous difficulty, and I'm trying to run between all of them to help them.
Okay, you know what? If nobody's like close to finishing, then I think what we'll do is we'll go around and we'll let one person from each group kind of explain who their people were.
Okay.
And we'll put up Gordon's name.
Okay.
Okay, I just don't want to take the time.
Okay. Everybody stop what you're doing.
Stop it.
Back to your seats wherever you were sitting originally.
No.
And from each group, just come up and explain. We'll start with no, everybody stop.
Okay, so we're going to start with Husky Dude. We're going to start with Husky Dude.
The iPads right now. Okay, go ahead, Jordan.
Second, I'm going to put up for everybody to see your meme. Okay, so everybody sees up on the screen Jordan's meme.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Jordan, you want to explain your meme, why you chose this, and who the Hasidim were?
Okay, so the Hasidim, like they like what they were known for. They were like what? How do I explain it? Basically, they like wanted everyone to connect to God, and their like main focus was singing and dancing and praying. So so that's why that's the inspiration for my meme.
Great. I think you did a great job. But you know what? Everybody should explain it to the class. You don't have to explain it to me, okay? Explain it to everybody else. And I think you guys did a fantastic job because that's what they were about. They worship God by singing and dancing and praying. And that's a beautiful meme to explain that. Okay. Who?
Secularism. You have secularism. You guys?
All kavod.
Explain. I know you, what was yours? You had secular. Who's coming from this group? Come on, Gabby, explain secularism. How about you? Come on, one of you come and explain it. Come on, Molly, you can do it. Let's go, guys. You know what, guys? There's so much talking going on. We're not listening to each other.
So I'm going to explain that they are going to explain. That's what I explained. We'll explain.
Go ahead, please.
I explain. So.
Okay, you know what? We're going to move on to the reform.
Okay, so guys, just have a sense that secular Jews, as compared to Hasidim, compared to Reform Jews, secular Jews, they were not so interested in being Jewish, and they really wanted to assimilate or become part of the surrounding society. So like a German secular Jew just wanted to be considered a good German and not necessarily Jewish. Okay, somebody from the Zionists.
Okay, the Zionist group. Who was the Zionist? You guys were. So someone, we want to come up?
No.
Come on, one of you guys come.
No.
Guys, please.
Someone. How about all three?
I don't mind if they speak from their seats. They can,
Okay, we have nobody who wants. What about one of you two guys? No. No one wants to explain for the Zionists.
okay, so how do the Zionists differ from secular Jews or from Hasidim? Zionists were very focused on trying to recreate a Jewish state in the Jewish homeland in Palestine. So that was their focus and their passion about Judaism. What about Reform Jews, or those who belong to the Reform movement? They weren't secular. They didn't want to just assimilate and be like all the other Germans. They were Jewish and wanted to celebrate their Judaism.
Here we have representing the Reform.
Great. Call a vote, guys.
So the Reform Jews, they still want to like practice Judaism, but they want it to be like more for like their like where they live, like so like in their like first language, which like always wasn't Hebrew. So they wanted it to like be more so everyone could like understand it.
Okay. Awesome. Beautiful interpretation. An important thing was language. They wanted to understand Judaism, not just hear things in Hebrew, which they didn't necessarily relate to. And they wanted to make it more modern, more relatable to where they lived and their society. Okay, great. You guys weren't able to get into the memes.
No.
Oh, okay. And what about our Misnagdim? How were they different? They were different than Hasidim. They were certainly very different than Reform Jews or secular Jews.
Mine says not. So mine says I don't know. If you, so just turn it. It says not accepted. What do you mean? If you looked in a dictionary, you know what it means. It means you keep going because you do things differently.
Okay. Okay. And how would you explain that the Misnagdim did things differently? Did they do things differently, or what were they claiming?
They were claiming the Torah cannot change anything or everything.
Okay, right. They were claiming no changes. They were stuck. They wanted everything to stay exactly the way they thought things had always been.
Yeah.
So we see that just like today, you know, they always say if you have 3 Jews or 2 Jews in a room or 3 Jews in a synagogue, that you need to build a second synagogue. Just like today, when many, many Jews have different ideas, we know we have Orthodox Jews and we have Haredim and we have conservative Jews and we have Reform Jews and we have secular Jews. We have Zionists, people who move to Israel or support Israel. We have people for whom Israel isn't necessarily the center of the world. So just like today, we have all different kinds of Jews. And Jewish life It's it's a big tapestry or painting of many colors. We shouldn't look back at Jewish life in Europe before the war and think it was all black and white and everybody dressed a certain way. We saw in those films and those video clips that people looked different, that people were bathing suits and went to the beach, that people dressed religiously, that people went outside and jumped rope, that school children dressed in school clothes and played, that people played and sang and danced, and that Jewish life before the war was very, very rich and very, very different, of many colors, just like it is today in both America and in Israel, actually across the world for that matter. So when we talk about losing 6 million Jews, or Jewish communities in Germany and Jewish communities in Poland or Jewish communities in Holland, we're talking about not just numbers, we're talking about whole cultures and very different ideas and different ways that people worshiped, that people believed, that people celebrated, and that people lived their lives. Okay, thank you guys. I apologize again that this was our one and only time that we're making memes. I apologize that the technology did not work so well for you, and I am actually going to ask that before our next class, all the iPads are checked out to make sure that they're easy to navigate and that they're working. Okay.
Okay.
So, what did we lose? How many Jews do you guys think were in Europe before the Holocaust? 13.5 million Jews, 9.4 million Jews, or 15.3 million Jews? Guys, by show of hands, who thinks 13.5 million Jews lived in Europe before the war? Jerry, can you be counting?
Yes, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, 6 of you. What about 9.4 million?
2.
Okay, and what about 15.3 million Jews?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think some people didn't vote at all, but about 7.
Okay, 7. Okay, so guys, actually, the two of you who said 9.4 million Jews, you are correct. In Europe, but it was a little bit of a trick question. In Europe, there were approximately 9.4 million Jews before the Shoah. However, the worldwide Jewish population before the Shoah was 15.3 million Jews. And this screen just gives you kind of an idea of where these Jews were located. And if you look even just on the little key at the bottom, you can see that the vast majority, almost 7 million of them, were in Eastern Europe. And we know that over 3 million of them were actually in Poland. So we're going to see, even though we're going to start talking about Germany, that much of the action takes place in Eastern Europe during the Shoah. Now, just to think about this, we know that before the Shoah, there were 15.3 million Jews in the world, 9.4 million in Europe. How many Jews do you guys think there are today? Who thinks 10.2 million Jews in the world today?
1, 2, 3.
Who thinks
3.
16.5 million Jews?
4. Actually, I think 4.
Okay, and what about 14.4 million?
The majority are going with 14.4 million.
Okay, the majority is correct. There actually are, according to the most recent 2016 survey, 14.4 million plus Jews living in the world today. So what does that tell you? If we know that 6 million Jews died, there were 15.3 million Jews in the world before the Shoah. There are 14.4 million Jews in the world today. What kind of information do those numbers give us, or what do we get from those numbers?
Jordan.
That in the beginning there were more Jews than there are now, but during the wars, like half of those Jews, or almost half of them, died, and the population is still building back up.
Okay, so Jordan gave us a lot of information, and he's right on all accounts, that we know that in strict numbers, there were more Jews before World War II, before the Shoah, that almost 2/3 of Europe's Jews were wiped out during the Shoah. But we see that there definitely has been, thank God to Jews living all over the world, and even many survivors. Many of you spoke about your grandparents being survivors, going on to build families. The Jewish worldwide community has experienced significant growth since World War II. Jerry, I think our time is up.
Okay.
And so, guys, we are going to end here. We are going to pick up next time next week, looking at what is the beginning, or how the Nazis kind of came to power, the rise of the Nazis, which takes us to the early 1930s and will lead us up to the start of World War II. So thank you, guys. Again, I apologize for the glitches we had today, but thank you for learning with me. And I will see you all next time. Shavua Tov. Bye.
So, say goodbye.
Bye.